Welcome back to the final hour of the Gary Sutton Show on a Friday. It's the final hour of the week for us. And have a good friend joining us this morning here on the Gary Sutton Show, Jeff Lenard, who's the Vice President for Strategic Industry Initiatives for the National Association of Convenience Stores. How'd you like to lug that around with you your whole life, right? But there's a new demographics report out from the Fuels Institute on future transportation trends and gas prices. Right now, we wanted to ask Jeff about gas prices this morning. He never gets off easy. And we welcome Jeff Lenard back to the show. Hey, Jeff, how you doing?
Good, thank you. Thanks for having me on. And I guess because of the weather tonight, I should start out by combining a couple current events. You get a little better traction if you slightly deflate your tires. I know the word deflate has been used.
I was going to say, you don't have to send them up to New England to get that done either.
No, you don't have to go up there to get that done, but you get better mileage when your tires are properly inflated. So if you are gripping the roads a little better to get through the weather tonight, make sure they're properly inflated to get better gas mileage, because Pennsylvania, of course, has the highest gas taxes in the country.
So do a little Bill Belichick on your tires tonight, and you should be okay, right?
I'll have to think up new material after this, but yes.
I'm sorry, it was cheap. Forgive me. But I thought I'd throw that in there. Since you're the one that brought up deflate, so it wasn't me. I just followed along. Anyway, are you a New England Patriots fan?
I grew up in New York, so I'm not gonna help people out here. You know, I grew up a Giants fan, so right now I have a bunch of people hanging up or getting online and writing bad things.
Oh, really? Oh, geez.
But now I live in D.C., and my favorite team is whoever's playing the Redskins.
Oh, very nice, very nice. So you're really making yourself popular this morning already, and we're only.
I know I'm not going well. Yeah, you know, I should do the old Hillary Clinton thing where when she came to New York, she loves the Mets, she loves the Yankees.
Yeah,
well. That's impossible.
Well, but you're too honest to do that, and that's what I like about you, so I appreciate that. Anyway, the Fuels Institute has released its latest report, and I thought it was kind of fascinating, actually. And I was reading through this, you put it out the other day, that they have all kinds of new driver demographics out there. And one of the things that jumped out at me was the type of drivers right now who are driving more and the types of drivers who are driving less. It kind of surprised me a little bit. Talk a little bit about the report.
Yeah, well, what this Fuels Institute is, this is something that our organization created last year, and what it is, it's instead of going to Congress and policymakers with all these different groups, you have automakers, you have environmental groups, you have petroleum folks, you have ethanol folks, all these different groups. We want to bring everybody together and say, let's look at things smartly so we can all move in the same direction, so we don't have 25 different research reports. So we've come out with a couple, this Fuels Institute, and the latest one looks at demographics. And the idea is, let's let people know who's buying cars, what's going on, and all this other stuff. And to me, it's a 56-page report. It doesn't even get into the reasons why. It's just data about what it is. The most interesting thing is that younger drivers, or there are fewer younger drivers.
Right.
And the number of people, the licensed drivers peaked around, percentage of population peaked around 1982. And right now you're looking at about two-thirds of all people, licensed drivers are roughly two-thirds of the U.S. population. But when you look at the licensed drivers as a percentage of population age 16, you're seeing a decline here. And what's interesting, it's really happening among the younger people. And a lot of speculation as to why. One of the bigger factors, most recently, is cell phones. Kids don't need cell phones anymore. When I have a 13-year-old and 11-year-old, their big moment in terms of birthdays is, can I get an Instagram account? It's not, can I get a driver's license? I'm looking to get a driver's license.
Yeah.
It's social media. They don't need to go anywhere because the phone is bringing people to them.
That is really interesting. I would not have thought about that until you just brought it up. And so the priority has changed because before you had to get all these different things done in a mobile way. Now you can do them by the touch of a finger to a dial.
Yeah, you can feel a sense of community. It's a different sense of community, but you can feel a sense of community in your bedroom. You don't need to go somewhere to meet people anymore, and that's a big impact on the younger drivers because now you're looking at less than one-third of those age 16 have a learner's permit now, and that number is continuing to decline.
You know, I was also wondering, and I, you know, that that statement connects to such a network of possibilities. I don't think we could touch them all if we had a 10-hour program today. But one of the things I was wondering, are we seeing then an increase? There are a couple things. Are we seeing an increase of people living in urban areas? That was one thought. Are we seeing an increase in people who are using mass transportation more so than we are with people who now owning cars and driving distances on their own?
You read my mind. Those are two big factors. We are seeing particularly younger people, newer people into the job market, the early 20s, mid-20s. They're moving back to the cities. Cities are increasingly becoming a place to go. And part of that probably has to do with cycles. You want to do a little bit different than what your parents did. So the music you listen to is different. The way you act is different. Parents went to the suburbs, so now I have to go to the cities. That's one factor. And because of that, we saw the use of mass transit at its highest level since 1956, I believe, last year. And that year is significant because in 1957, we had the Federal Interstate Highway Act, which built all the interstates. And 1956 was the last peak of mass transit. So we're seeing a reemergence of mass transit. You're also seeing some of the younger people, whether they're living in urban areas or areas that are pseudo mass transit, they're using things like Zipcar and things like that. They're using sometimes cars.
Yeah, and is there a higher incidence now also of leasing compared to people wanting to buy their cars?
That isn't part of this.
But that's kind of an interesting
great
thought.
Question, yeah.
So I would think that's another bit of information. Like I said, when you said the statement a moment ago, I just went, just the whole network and domino effect there is really interesting. One of the things on millennials that we hear time and time again is the fact that a lot more are living with their parents, a lot more are living at home, and you wonder as well if maybe millennials are using their parents' car, or they're somehow, the cars are registered to the parents and so forth, and yet the kids are still using that because they're sticking around until 26, 27 years of age.
Well, that's another excellent point. It's like you read this 56-page thing. There's one paragraph in there that talks about some of the reasons why millennials are driving less, and one of the factors is they mention the cell phone, and they also mention helicopter parents. That kids, if they need to drive somewhere, there are certainly plenty of parents out there who'll say, okay, I'll take you, Junior. You don't have to get off your cell phone to be on Instagram or something. Where do you want to go? Let me do it. And so there is that element, too, where with people having smaller families, particularly if you have one or two kids, you tend to spend more time with them or, in some cases, overspend time with them.
Now, one of the things in this report that kind of went, maybe I read it incorrectly, so please feel free to correct me, which you've always done, if I'm wrong. But it said in the report, the growth in driving by baby boomers may offset a decline in driving by millennials. And I'm thinking to myself, shouldn't it be declining with baby boomers here on the end part of that, not the front part necessarily? But shouldn't the driving start to decline there? Wouldn't we tend to want to see that, or tend to see that because more and more people are not driving?
That was my reaction, too. I was thinking, well, as you get older, you tend to drive less.
Right.
There are two major factors, I think, that are driving an increase for some age groups. First off, the more wealth you have, the more likely you are to drive. And the older you are, the more likely that you've gone somewhere in your career path and you have more money. If you're in your 20s, you don't have as much money as somebody in their 60s. So that's one factor. They have more money. But the second one is the boomers and those that are even 70 or older, they grew up with a car. They don't know another way, and they are really the first generation that's felt that way post World War II. So they don't know that the bus is an option. They don't know that some of these other things were, because their heyday was the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, where get in the car and go do something. And the recent switches, I think, are a little bit foreign to a lot of people out there. So you're seeing the only increase in drivers is among the older drivers.
That is really interesting. There's something else, too, there. And I was thinking there are a lot of people, too, the car is maybe their last bit of control to keep them connected with the world, and kind of going to your thinking there as well, because they are not, a lot are connected with the internet, but kind of on a cursory level, but they're connected to the world by their mobility. And when they lose that, they feel, and I've talked to people about this before, so I know they feel that way, that they've lost control of their world, and then they're on the downside. And I think as long as they have that car, and as long as they have control of that car, they are still very much connected to the world.
Yeah, absolutely. And I probably need to clarify what I was saying just a second ago. It's not that the older drivers are getting driver's license. What's happening is we're cycling through the baby boom, a surge in population that is translating into older drivers, and there are a higher percentage of older drivers now than there have been in a number of years, while the younger drivers are declining.
You know what else is interesting too, and I again you just opened up an entire realm for me this morning, but we also are living longer. And we're also in better shape longer, I think, in a lot of ways. But the fact is, where you used to, have people stop driving when they were 65 or so, now people, 65 is not that old, 70 is not that old, 75 is not even that old. So you have a lot of people out there who are saying, yeah, I can still do this. So maybe you're seeing a marked difference there from what it was, let's say, 20, 25 years ago.
You're also seeing cars that are much more easy to drive. I remember my first car. It did not have power steering, and I was 18, and I thought in decent shape. But if you have to turn and you don't have much speed, those forearms start to hurt. And with power steering, with automatic transmissions, they are much easier for people to drive than they ever have been. And going forward, who knows how it'll pan out in 10 years, 20 years when you have these self-driving cars. You take away some of the issues that older drivers will have even more. And
not to mention cars that can kind of park themselves and video cameras in the back and all that kind of stuff. I mean, it really does make a heck of a difference. One of the things I always talk to you about, Jeff, and I can never, ever let it alone, is gas prices. And I want to talk to you a little bit about that when we come back, about the gas prices, where they've gone right now, and what we're seeing out there on the world market. I know we're seeing OPEC trying to maybe glut the market there. I want to get some of your thoughts this morning on where we're going to go in the trend right now in gas prices. Will it stop? Are we going to go below $2 a gallon? We're down around $2.04, $2.05 right now, but we'll get Jeff's look at that when we come back. Jeff Lenard, who is the Vice President for Strategic Industry Initiatives and the National Association of Convenience Stores. He'll be back with us here on the Gary Sutton Show on News Radio 910 WSBA. Welcome back to the Gary Sutton Show on WSBA on a Friday morning, our final hour of the week, and it has gone by so fast. The Brian's over there fist pumping, but I'm sad. I'd like to be doing this. Maybe we can do a show tomorrow. I'll call you back in, okay? He said, I think he just said something to me, and I'm not sure it can be repeated on family-friendly radio, but did you? I just said you're crazy. Oh, okay. All right. Well, that's not so bad. Anyway, Jeff Lenard, who always speaks perfect English, Vice President for Strategic Industry Initiatives for the National Association of Convenience Stores, back with us here on the Gary Sutton Show. By the way, how do you, when you introduce yourself and they'll say, what do you do, Jeff? And you go, I'm the Vice President of Strategic Industry Initiatives for the National Association of Convenience Stores. How do you do that? I say I'm Jeff from NACS and just leave it at that. You always have a good retort. I love it. Everybody's looking at gas prices right now, happily. At least the people that are using the cars right now. Obviously, there are some people who maybe are investors around the world and so forth that maybe aren't quite as happy. What is the situation out there? We're looking at them. Give me the most recent average that you're seeing here, and how low does it go before it's too low? Well, right now, looking at the national average, it's about 203 nationwide. In Scranton, it's about 230. And as I said earlier, a lot of that has to do with Pennsylvania tax being the highest in the country now. Thanks for reminding us. You actually passed California, so congratulations. Yeah, that wasn't Jeff. Easy. Yeah, now I go into depression. It was 207 this morning, the lowest one I saw. But, yeah, I'm depressed. But go ahead. And you're seeing some areas of the country where wholesale prices gas, and that is before tax, before distribution, before a lot of other things, is under $1. So typically you add 90 cents to the wholesale price to come up to retail. So if you look at those two things, there is the potential to go a little lower. And when I say that, we don't predict prices. That gets I know. Problems, but I would never lead you there unless I thought I could get away with it. But go ahead. Yeah, sure. And me and some of those other guys with the inflation issues may be in the same place if I predict. So who knows?
But anyway, I think that analysts are saying that we will likely go as a country nationwide under $2, and for me, that's really fascinating because I know over the last few months or years, every time you say, well, can prices go low, one of the things I've always said is the only way it will go under $2 is if there's a major crisis.
Right.
And we will probably go under $2 and there's no major crisis. And what strikes me as there's 3 times in this country we've seen gas prices this century below $2. One was right after September 2011, September 11th, 2001, right, when gas prices dropped sharply because of the glut of jet fuel. People flew less. Saw the same thing in 2008 where they went from $4 to $1.60. And again, that was a glut of oil after the economic collapse in the second half of, or was felt in the second half of 2008. Right. Here we have the third time. The first 2 times were because of a decrease in demand, a sharp decrease in demand. This is because of a sharp increase in supply, largely from Canada and the U.S. in particular. And now we have about a billion barrel a day or million barrel a day surplus. And so what's happening is, I don't know, I don't have much room in our house. I can't put 1 million barrels a day somewhere, or any storage facility can, and then you add 1 million tomorrow, 1 million the day after that. Yeah. So then you want to get rid of this stuff because, you know, it costs money to store it. So that started this whole deceleration. Now what's I guess somewhat interesting is low gas prices are great. Retailers love it. Consumers have more money. They're happier. Consumers, looks like the average household have $500 to $700 more if these prices hold. But there are some downsides if we stay here, because I've heard things where everything from China, it helps China. It's bad for Russia, and what happens if Russia needs to acquire more resources? So what's interesting about this, if you think about it from a purely philosophical level, the last 2 oil price declines were caused by a crisis. There's concern that this one could lead to some type of, if you will, crisis down the road. It might not, but there could be some negative consequences with low gas prices. That said, retailers like happy customers with money, so we're not advocating that.
You know, it's interesting. I was, from a political standpoint, when President Obama came in, I think they were at $1.87. Somebody's chronicled that time and time again ad nauseum. So it may well get back down to that level. It's kind of interesting how far it has gone up. And one of the things that he said in the early going was, we'll never see it back at $2 a gallon again. Well, guess what? Here we are. And one has to look at the place that the United States has gotten to over 6 years here, especially with the fracking. So the fracking is a good thing. And yet, at the same time, what's going on with the whole? A lot of people are trying to figure out what's Saudi Arabia and OPEC and a lot of these countries doing right now. They're talking about playing with the oil prices. What are they trying to do in terms of hurting us in the production we have right now of our natural gas?
There are some people that say Saudi Arabia is looking long game on this, and they had a chance to cut back production because they're essentially known as the swing country. They have the most oil. They can say we're turning off the spigots by 1 million barrels a day. That'll even out supply and demand, and everything will be fixed. There are 2 theories as to why they haven't done that. One is they're trying to sweat out some of these higher cost oil areas. It costs $50, $60, $70 to pull oil out of the ground in the U.S. and Canada for some of these more difficult to explore areas. In Saudi Arabia, it costs like $5. It's ridiculously cheap. So while they may not be making as much money, maybe they can sweat out some of the competition. That's one theory. The other theory, which I think is even more interesting, is they realize that they don't have that power anymore. So if they don't show that they're trying to exert that power, people may think they still have that power. So that's kind of intriguing to me, that they know they have no control, but if they try to show it, everything may just fall apart for them. So that's, I think, where we are now. We're going into the spring transition in another month or so. That causes pressure on the system. No matter how low wholesale gas prices are, it makes it more complicated to make oil or make gas. So usually you see upward pressure on prices in the spring. Demand usually increases in the spring, but demand in November and December was ridiculously high compared to historical standards. And the only thing that I can think of is it's because gas prices were low, and that's very unusual, because if you look at all stats, people don't want to drive more. They've driven all they need to do. So where is this extra driving coming from? And I think tying back to the driver demographics, I think one of the things you're seeing is some of the younger drivers, even though there aren't many of them comparatively over the past decades, they were the ones in November and December that were driving more because they may have more flexibility in their schedules, and they are most impacted by gas prices.
Well, it's really, really interesting to watch this whole thing and to watch how our demographics change. I'm fascinated by this, and as I said, it has such a domino effect, and it seems to connect to such a network of things out there. And you always are interesting when you bring these kind of things in.
Well, thank you. So we talked about tire inflation in the beginning. We talked about kids with cell phones, and what's also interesting, and I've thought about this a little. The peak year for driver licenses was around 1982. So what was happening around that time? And that might have been the 30-year transition of how technology has been in our lives. And I'm thinking back, what was going on in my world in 1982? Well, that was about the time my parents got cable TV. So maybe there were more people staying home because of that. That's about the time that you had video stores, which are now out of business.
Right.
So was that kind of the start of the cocooning that we've seen that's gone on the last 30 years, where homes are more places to congregate or enjoy than they were previously, and the cell phone has continued that? Well, I don't know, but that's an interesting take on it.
It really is. You saturated me with information this morning. I can barely take it all in, but I appreciate it.
Well, thank you. And
thank you, Jeff. Seriously.
We will keep on putting these things out, and let me know if you want to talk more.
I do, and it's good stuff, really. I mean, I think it really is good to look at what is going on. We're like a couple of sociology pairs here, we could say, but really good stuff. And thanks again, Jeff. Looking forward to talking to you again very soon, and have a great weekend.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.